What I'm going to share with you today is really quite simple. It's remarkably simple. It's a way of reaching people for the Lord. It's a way of not only reaching and discipling them, but it's also a way of discipling the people who become involved with it, the hosts. It seems like the hosts get more out of this than anybody else, and it sort of grows the believers more than it does the rest of the folks. Today, if you'll watch this little agenda, we're going to talk about the simple process. Then I'm going to give you a message that I use, and then we'll talk about the rest of these things as we go down the line. But here's what we're essentially doing. Essentially, we're asking people to host a group of people around them that they know, their oikos, if you will, and gather their folks around them that are lost, and let's come and do a Bible study. All they have to do really is invite people. Now, I say all they have to do. There's a little bit that goes into that. You know, nothing's quite as simple as it should be. But they gather people around them. Then we do a series of lessons. During this series of lessons, we invite people to accept the Lord. Every one of them accept the Lord by this time, because I don't even ask them to get saved until lesson number 8. And what if they die first? I don't know. You know, don't go there with. It gives me a headache. But what I'm trying to do is what I call pre-disciple, because in my own personal journey, let me just tell you what it is. In 1970, I led my first person to Jesus. I liked it. It was scary, honestly. It was quite scary. And I thought my pant legs wouldn't stop shaking because of the experience, but I led a person to the Lord. And I began to think to myself, you know, this is a good thing. In those days, and I'm kind of, this is part of the stuff I'm going to tell you in my message, so let me not cover all this. But I ended up leaving secular work and going into the ministry. It was part of God's design for me. And during that time, I was very zealous about leading people to Jesus. At first, it was, how many can I win? And I mean, boy, I was winning everybody. If you got a pulse, I'm going to win you. And it was all about racking up a big score. And, you know, it was my journey, and I recognize the error of that right now. And then I went from that to, well, where are they? You know, that's my question. If they're saved, they ought to show up someplace, and they didn't show up anyplace. And so I began to think more about discipleship. So then after discipleship, and I'm at the other end of my life now, and what I've done now is I've realized that there's certain things that I have learned over the years that I've got to pass this on. And I have almost determined now in my journey not to lead another person to Jesus if I don't have a believer sitting there watching it. You understand that? I do think that's discipleship. Now, I actually, in my quest to do that, I've written a book, and it's called Charging Hell with a Squirt Gun. And I brought 10 with me today, and the first 10 people that pick one up can have it. Don't take one if you're not going to read it. But what this book does, I find, is it makes people want to win people to the Lord. It makes them soul conscious. So you can pick one up. There's no charge. Just take it. But there's only 10. So if you're not going to read it, and by the way, it's shaped just like the back of a toilet, so that if you put this down, I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect. Some of your best bowel movement. Well, never mind. Sorry. Being in the ministry now since 1973, I'm highly educated, which is an absolute shock to my high school people, the teachers. I've got a couple of doctorates. One is in ministry, and I've got a doctor of philosophy in counseling. I don't like counseling, so don't ask me to do it because it's too slow. You know, I'm a microwave kind of guy, and they all want, you know, you tell them the first week what you want them to do, and then after that, you got to tell them again, then you got to repackage it and tell them again. Too slow for me. He prefers to be in front of a group like this. I love being in front of people who can't find the Gospel of John. That excites me. The most exciting experience I ever had in the ministry was sitting in Morocco with 4 Muslims going through John 14. I mean, it just made my socks go up and down my legs. It was just, I'll never forget it, never forget it. So what we're going to talk to you today about is how this process all works. And over the years, I got excited about soul winning. That's the way I am. I began to value things that are eternal instead of things that are temporary. And FYI, I've led several thousand people to the Lord here, there, and everywhere. And right now we're leading people to the Lord in these seeker groups. And we gather them together, and they all accept the Lord. It's awesome. I disciple them like I've never discipled anybody before. I will say to you confidently that the people that we win to the Lord, this is the highest quality of convert I've ever had. It catches, you know what I'm saying? Probably because spending so much time with them. It turns the host into an automatic discipler, whether he wants to be or not, because he ends up having tons of questions and people, so it draws him out. It forces the host to grow, and it's awesome. Right now, I teach the Bible as many as 8 times a week. I do some in businesses. I do some in neighborhoods, and all of them with seekers. I don't want to do one if there's no seekers present. And in fact, I tell the people when we start doing this, don't even invite the saved. I'd just assume them not come, because they've all got agendas. They all want to advance. They want to show off what they know, and that's what they do. And you can't shut them up. So they just cause trouble. You get too many Baptists in a room, you're going to end up splitting the group, and that's just the way. We all know that that's true, right? We all have experience. So what I'm going to start with, if you'll take your Bible and turn to Luke chapter 10, in Luke 10, and there's an outline. If you'll follow along, there's my sermon outline I'm giving to you. It's the second piece of paper that you have there. See it? And the reason it goes this way is because this is the way I do my sermons. I do like that, and I fold them so they can go in my Bible and nobody knows I have them. It's a secret, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this message, because this is how I get people to respond to becoming a host. I think, and I think you agree with me, that people respond to preaching more than they do announcements. If you need a worker, you don't make an announcement, you preach them down the aisle. So that's what this is all about. So this message that I'm going to do right this minute is being recorded. And we're going to give this to you on the way out the door.
Next week.
Next week, okay, or whatever. We'll get it to you one way or another. And if you choose to use this, then this will work for you. So now I'm going to start what I would consider my message. All right, so here's my introduction. In 1970, something happened to me that changed my life. I led somebody to Jesus. And it changed my life in that it started putting things into a different perspective for me. I began to think to myself, and in those days I used to be a systems analyst in county government. Now, 1970 guy in computers, those are dinosaurs. Because the whole room was the computer. And I worked in the county government in Michigan. And what we did during those days, we had to write our own programs. You couldn't buy packaged programs, had to write your own. So my job was overseeing the payroll for the entire county. So my job was every time, and once we got the thing programmed, my job was to be there every time the checks were, it's confidential stuff, So I remember leaning on the printer watching these checks go by. And $1 million a week, there it went, and that was chump change now, I know, but back then, $1 million a week, I marveled at that. So here goes $1 million a week, and 2 weeks from now, here they go again, and a couple of weeks later, there they go again, and after a while, I began looking at this thing saying to myself, is this it?